Without Context.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Without Context. This is our part 3, our first three-parter, and our first with context, I guess.
Yeah.
A little bit of context in there, because you know what we did last couple of episodes. This episode is going to be for the tag teams. We did the men's, we did the women's, and now we're doing the tag teams for our top 10 lists.
It was supposed to be last week's episode, but some stuff came up, so we pushed it to this week. But
as a reminder, Sharky and I are factory workers.
Yeah, so
it's grueling.
But yeah, so we're here with the tag teams, and to round out this 3-part series that we started.
You know, I thought tag team wrestling was really fun in 2022.
It was a very nice period of tag teams.
Yeah, it was a good.
This has probably been the most well-rounded group of tag teams I think I've seen in years. You know, because tag team wrestling for the longest time had kind of been, you know, at the bottom of the priority list in pro wrestling, but I think this year just kind of brought it back up a notch.
My least favorite trope over the years was the WWE champion and the challenger becoming tag team champions for like a week, and then they lose it because they turn on each other a week before the pay-per-view. Who could have seen that happen?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll start, I guess. I have... does anyone have any honorable mentions?
I'm going to say the Street Profits.
No?
Street Profits.
Street Profits?
They were pretty entertaining this year.
And also, to be clear, I know it's going to be February 3rd when this comes out. We are talking about 2022, not 2020.
Yeah. So this is all still our 2022 segment here.
Yeah. Anyway, Street Profits. I have the Viking Raiders for the same reason I had Sarah Logan in the women's. Is because Sarah Logan managed to make me give a shit about the Viking Raiders.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty remarkable because they went through character changes, right? And it was bad. The Viking experience. It was bad.
The Viking experience.
And they tried to make that the finisher. I remember they tried to make that the name of the finisher. Because they were like, no, this name works. And then everyone just fucking shat on it. Rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean...
As they should.
And I mean, in NXT, you know, they're portrayed as like this dominant group, you know, they're Vikings, the War Raiders. And then they get up there and it's just, we're not even mid-tier tag team, like Focus.
Yeah.
It's like that major drop-off from when the Ascension was in NXT and then they went up to the main roster and became...
When the Ascension dominated NXT.
Yeah, and they did. Then, they were like a faction, too.
Didn't do anything until the Fashion Police came around and then made them like great to watch again. And then all of those people got released. So
yeah.
I know Connor from the Ascension has shown up in Impact now.
Yeah, he's called Big Con now.
I don't know what the other guy's doing.
There's always Jannetty.
Yeah.
Shout out to Marty Jannetty. Anyway, for number 10, I have the Young Bucks.
Okay.
I think they were embroiled in controversy for a good chunk of 2022, right? So
yeah, the brawl out.
The brawl out that took them down a few notches for me. But the thing I like about the Bucks is that they're extremely consistent, and you know what you're getting out of their matches. It's not my personal cup of tea, but it's like you know what you're getting when you sign up to like when you book the Young Bucks to have a match. You know what you're getting. You're getting 2 high flyers. You're getting a bunch of false finishers, and you're getting a ton of super kicks.
Yeah, and they had a really good 2022, kind of teasing that Undisputed Elite feud, especially in that triple threat where they where them and the Undisputed Elite cost each other the title match against Jack Perry and Luchasaurus.
Yes.
So it's like we had all the fixings of one, and then stuff just kind of happened to everybody.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Is like Kyle O'Reilly still injured? Like he hasn't been around.
Yeah, he's still injured at the moment,
Still
but I
hurt,
think
yeah.
he should be on the mend pretty soon.
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
know
sure,
Adam
though.
Cole came back. The Bucks are back after all the stuff. So, unfortunately, like Undisputed Elite's not really a thing anymore, so that feud's not going to have any real payoff. But it was a good tease, and I hope that they do still do something with Adam Cole and the Bucks and everything. Who's your number 10?
So for number 10, I went a little different. I had Alpha Academy at number 10.
It was a good year for them.
It was a really good year for Alpha Academy. And the thing is, when I first saw them, when they first came together, I didn't know if it was going to work or not. Otis was this, white meat, lovable, big guy babyface. And, he had just came off of that, a couple years ago, he just came off of that whole storyline with Mandy Rose. And he was just getting so much babyface, react. He was getting so much babyface reaction. And, they turned him heel at some point, put him with Chad Gable. And I'm like, I'm not sure if Otis is going to pull this off. How can he, he's a heel and they have him as a heel, but he's just so lovable, and likable. And Chad Gable is basically a character, and he's just one of the funniest underrated characters on there.
Chad Gable continues to be just a sleeper hit to management for some reason. It's like everybody loves him, but like people backstage don't see anything about it, and I'm like, you guys are squandering.
Like
it's because he's not 6'7".
How much does this guy have to put out in order for them to say, hey, you know what, maybe we got something here? Okay, because Chad Gable's been fucking great. Like he created the whole Shoosh tagline, and now that's on the shirt and selling. Shoosh.
He's been great, and every time I see a Chad Gable match, I'm actually excited to watch it because the guy can wrestle. Like he can put on great wrestling matches, and like he is just like he's just so funny when he's in like these comedy heel roles. And it's just like I hope he gets more to do. It's just I feel like they're sleeping on him.
Yeah, he's like Kurt Angle in the sense where he can be ultra serious and wrestle really good matches, and then he can do the comedy stuff and still wrestle really good matches all the same.
He does remind me of Stooge. He does remind me of Stooge, Kurt Angle, in ways. Yeah, but he's just not involved in like a big storyline or anything. My number 10 for 2022, I had Best Friends. Okay. Just I like them whenever they're on. I know what I'm getting with them. I'm getting that like mix of like good technical and comedy wrestling that AEW. You got
to give the people what they want.
It's like they have everybody in AEW has their niche. Like you're going to have your serious matches, you're going to have your brutal matches, but then when Best Friends come out, you're going to have just a fun time. I mean, they've perfected that like Okada zoom out when the Best Friends like hug each other in the ring.
The vibes are immaculate when they're out
there.
Vibe,
and just the group's great. Trent and Chuck, and you have Danhausen and Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander when she comes back. Like it's just a great group to like see. Everybody's so different. Yeah, and I mean the thing is like it's never gonna be a boring match because they're still gonna wrestle. It's gonna be entertaining, but they are definitely like the Best Friends of Trent and Chuck are kind of like the background characters for the three. I would say the three more popular people, which are Orange Cassidy, Danhausen, and Chris Statlander. Whenever she comes back from injury.
Yeah, I hope she heals up soon because I think for a while with Chris Statlander, they were probably trying to push her towards the TBS championship. And I think she was going to be the one to dethrone Jade, but I hope they still stick to that when they come back.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, it's just people are just getting injured in dumb ways, like right at the wrong times. It feels like it's always like accident or something happens. And it's just somebody's always somebody's always off TV. Like Cole getting knocked out in the first like few minutes of their match.
Yeah.
And then kind of shutting down, the Kenny Omega feud. And anything that might have had planned with Jay White had to go on the back burner because Adam Cole was out. It just seems like, man, we have to just redo all these plans now. We got to put stuff on the shelf. And I feel like with Chris, it was like that because she's kind of due for a title. And they haven't been really telegraphing her injury or anything. But I feel like with the storyline brewing right now, with the AEW originals and, you know, Paige's faction coming in, I think we might see Chris Statlander come back to be a part of that.
Yeah. I
That'd
think
be-
they're clearly positioning the women towards a blood and guts match.
I would love to see it.
I'd love to see that. And I hope we get that because, you know, I think Britt Baker went up to Ruby Soho this past week on Dynamite, well, last week on Dynamite, and she's just basically telling her to pick a side. So I'm like, I think we're moving towards that, and
We're definitely moving
that
towards
would
like a
be-
faction battle in the
Yeah.
women's division, and
it would just be
it's giving them a lot more to do because a lot of the women aren't being featured right now. But like a big faction war could be a way to get a lot of people over and, you know, on TV and all that.
yeah, get all of them on television.
Who do you got for number 9 there, Deca?
I have actually, since you mentioned it earlier, but I have Jurassic Express.
Yeah,
They're not a tag team anymore, but
they're not. and
Um,
Jungle Boy's making the best use of his solo run right now too with Hook.
is it really a solo run if you're running with Hook?
They're gonna break up at some point. Like, and then we're gonna probably get a Hook Jungle Boy feud.
Jungle.
I don't know. Anyway, so
That's another thing. Christian's injured, so the Jungle Boy thing can't continue as planned because Christian's like arm is still broken.
But is Luchasaurus injured?
Yes.
Oh, well,
He's
I think they're both injured.
Oh,
so
fuck.
Jack's storyline just got like stopped. So they're like, throw him with Hook.
then Hook. But they had really good matches, like over and over and over with like, what was it, like the Elite, Death Triangle, like, all these other people over the course of 2022. And
Lucha Bros.
the
They did
Lucha
Wrestle
Bros,
Lucha
yeah,
Bros too. Yeah.
the Lucha Bros I meant instead of Death Triangle.
Oh, okay.
But I am a sucker for the big man little man tag teams.
Yeah. They have the sizes.
One of my favorite tag teams growing up was X-Pac and Kane.
And then Daniel Bryan and Kane.
Yeah,
Shawn
exactly.
Michaels Diesel dynamic. It just works.
It works.
Yeah.
You got the big guy, you got the little guy.
Luchasaurus does kind of outshine Kevin Nash a bit, though, being a lot more athletic than Kevin Nash could ever
For
be.
sure. For sure.
I mean, the man can do
But-
standing moonsault. It's insane.
I will say, if you're comparing the bigs of like Kane, Diesel, and Luchasaurus, I think Kane is like the most legit strong out of the three of them.
Yeah.
Kane is legit strong.
Yeah, Kane's a strong dude. Luchasaurus is way more athletic.
Yes.
But I think Kevin Nash does hit like the better charisma out of the three of them.
Yes.
And that's saying a lot because it's still Kevin Nash. So
Kevin Nash is low key charismatic. It's just he's up his own ass
yeah.
sometimes.
So there's a good little trifecta of
Yeah, it's a nice little trifecta there.
big
Big
guy.
man
Here's
and
the
the
big man
medium-sized man.
diagram. Where do all the other big guys fit?
There you go.
It was like with big guys, like we were talking about the Daniel Brian Cage match, and it's like this match is kind of boring, and it's like I feel like that's just Brian Cage's fault though. Like the guy doesn't really have a lot of like in-ring charisma.
He's all right at talking. He's like, if you get him into like not wrestling interviews, he's quite entertaining to listen to.
I think it's also just a chemistry thing because, like we said, those matches with Willie Mack were just insane. So
Yeah, for sure.
it's definitely telling. Like even with Bryan Danielson, it's just I don't think there was chemistry there. You're trying to have this big guy trying to wrestle like a very technical wrestler, and things just weren't, going. Or maybe the audience was dead for the previous match. I couldn't remember what it was, but they probably had the "we went on after a banger" like syndrome.
Yeah, and on top of that, I just think it's just a way of, two people just flowing in the ring together, and sometimes it just doesn't work as well as it should.
Yeah.
So Brian Cage and Brian Danielson, I know they tried to make it work, but it's just something wasn't flowing right between the two there.
Yeah.
Because they have completely different styles, and sometimes that's hard to mesh together.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Anything else for your Jurassic Express?
No, I think that's it. I think I said what I needed to say. They had good matches over 2022.
They did. And I wonder if they're ever going to get them back together, because I know Luchasaurus is Christian's like right hand right now.
Absolutely, it's absolutely going to happen at some point.
Probably when the feud ends, it's probably Luchasaurus turning on Christian to get back with Jungle Boy. Something simple that everybody would appreciate.
Christian is guaranteed to piss Luchasaurus off in some way, and it's going to lead him back to being face.
Oh yeah, that's just the way
heel Christian works.
Heel Christian, yeah. It's so good.
Heel Christian is awesome. Who do you got for number 9, X?
Let's see here. For number 9, I believe I have the Judgment Day. Yes, number 9, the Judgment Day.
I have them for number 8.
Yeah, because I don't think I've seen anybody have such a great year in a short period of time the way Judgment Day did. Okay, from the way that group came together, starting with Edge, Rhea Ripley, and Damian Priest, to his current incarnation, they've been on fire. Okay, and I know a lot of it was Rhea Ripley just making things work and just having viral moments left and right. But the Judgment Day has been a solid unit. They've been a solid group. Hell, they've even made Dom better in some way.
It really did. Like, Dom's actually an enjoyable character on TV right now.
Because Dom, when he was teaming with his dad, it's like, yeah, this is cool and all, but you just kind of wanted to see more from Dominic. Okay? Putting him with Judgment Day was just a fantastic decision, and they've just been on a roll since.
I have opinions about Prison Dom.
Yeah, Prison Dom has some. Becca has some opinions on.
It's some questionable content coming from Prison Dom.
It definitely feels like a white guy has written that character.
Yeah,
a certain Bruce probably wrote that.
But I cannot deny that Dom is making it entertaining.
Dom is playing a good chicken shit heel. Like
yes.
It's just he's gotten better as being the chicken shit heel that runs back to Rhea whenever somebody fucks with him.
And on top of that, Damian Priest, has just improved leaps and bounds. Okay, because as far as his character work, because Damian Priest was always awesome in the ring. Okay, that wasn't the problem. He can always cut promos, but I think this is some of the best character work he's done in forever. And he just has like this deep, intimidating voice, that just booms throughout the crowd, and it just heightens the intimidation factor of the Judgment Day. Yep. They've been a really solid group, and I've enjoyed them so much. The only thing is they, maybe it's time to push them towards the tag team titles a little bit.
Well,
they're one of the premier tag teams. They get featured every week, so why not?
Well, they did.
Yeah, they did, but still we're doing the Bloodline storyline, so of course they weren't going to win it.
I think having them constantly in the picture is a good idea. I think if that's what you're getting at, yes, absolutely. If constantly having them in the picture is the play here.
Yeah.
But as you can see, the whole Bloodline thing where none of the titles are really being defended.
Yeah, and that's probably why for my number 9 I have the Usos. It's the same thing. Like their 2022 was good in terms of like their focus, but you can just expect what the matches are going to do. It's somebody's going to come out and interrupt, or somebody's going to get involved. Sami Zayn was going to get involved to save him. Everything was just so predictable for the Usos during 2022 that even if they were entertaining, it was just, I know how this is going to end. So why am I even bothering?
Yeah, but at the same time, I had the Usos a lot higher up on that list for other reasons besides that.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said,
I do
Bloodline. With the Bloodline, you get what you get with them. Okay, we know how this storyline is gonna go. They're gonna look invincible for a while, but at the same time, they do other things in promos that are just incredible. Okay, and they've all gotten a lot better with doing those little minor detail things, which I'll go into later.
Yeah, I think with the Bloodline, and I think we kind of talked about it in the Discord a bit, is just having all the titles on this one faction has kind of booked them into a corner.
Yeah,
because you have Elimination Chamber being held in Montreal. The reports are saying that Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn will be main eventing. Do you ruin this hype behind Sami by having him lose? And then you have him lose in Canada and then just go after the tag team titles from the Usos and not give him this big moment. But at the same time, if he beats Roman, then Cody doesn't seem as impressive.
Yeah.
And it's
especially
like,
because
fuck.
it's in Montreal too.
We
and
shouldn't.
It's in Montreal, so
yeah, and it's
you
like
know,
we shouldn't have put both of these titles on one guy. I was thinking about it. I think the easiest way out of this is you can have Sammy
That
lose. You can have Sammy lose by Solo getting involved or something.
or,
WrestleMania,
you know,
WrestleMania, make it a
finish.
WrestleMania, make it a triple threat. But then book the ending where by some reason both Cody and Sammy fall on Roman at the same time to pin him.
Yeah, and they have to split the titles that way.
They have to split the titles, one to each of them.
Yeah,
They're both on different brands, so it's easy.
Yeah.
But I know this has to end in a DQ, otherwise Montreal will flip. Okay, and I think a lot
Are
of
they going to do
lot of-
Montreal Screwjob 2023?
Yes. Let's fucking go.
Or are they going to reverse it and Jay's going to Screwjob Roman out of the title?
Screw Job 2 Electric Boogaloo.
No, but the thing is, I feel like they've booked him into a corner because either you steal the momentum from Sammy and then everybody turns on Cody, or Cody doesn't seem as impressive because Sami's dethroned Roman Reigns.
This is yet another Daniel Bryan situation WWE has created.
I'm
not sure if
they have to capitalize on Sammy. They
I'm
have
not sure
to.
if they were trying to create this situation, but now they have to. They don't have a choice.
He said they said that this was just a thing for Sammy to do for like 2 months before they moved him on to a new storyline. And Sammy worked this out so well they kept him in. So it's like
you got to pay it off.
There has to be a payoff to this, and I just don't feel like I feel like you have to choose between Cody or Sammy, and I feel like they're still going to choose Cody.
I don't think you have to choose. I think Sammy can take one of the titles off of Roman, and it's Roman versus Cody still for the other one. And I think that's just as impressive that's still impressive dethroning somebody who's been champion for the better part of 3 years.
But I think I made the joke about it a while ago. I think Cody signed a contract. I think I am willing to bet he has it in his contract that he beats undisputed champion Roman Reigns. Not one title Roman Reigns, both title Roman Reigns. I think like that was in the contract before he even came back to them.
You did make that joke when he came by.
I feel like that might,
debuted.
and I'm like, I want them just in Montreal, just give it to Sammy.
Poor Cody, man. He's about to go full circle and get right back to where he was before he left AEW with everybody just booing the shit out of him.
Because the thing is, if Sammy loses and Cody wins, the crowd's going to turn on him. It's already predictable.
Yeah.
But I'll skip to my number 8. I had Judgment Day for the same reason you guys had. Very entertaining last year. A good origin with Edge, a good twist with Finn taking over. And since then, they just have become so entertaining to watch. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they do with them this year. Who you got for 8, Deca?
I had the Lucha Bros.
Lucha Bros.
Yeah. I've been a fan of their matches. I think Penta likes to bleed a little too much for my liking. But I
have the same opinion about Moxley.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, he comes from deathmatch wrestling. That makes sense.
Yeah, but it's like he's bleeding like every week, especially on Rampage.
At some point, when you get at some point after bleeding so much, if you just tap them on the head lightly, like they'll start bleeding.
Moxley does a blade job before an interview.
He just becomes like a ketchup dispenser.
But no, I like their chemistry as a tag team. I know this has been like all of their wrestling in several feds, even before coming to AEW.
Yeah.
Between Mexico and wherever else they may have been. But I like Penta. I like that they're luchadors. They're both like the lucha style, but they're both different variants of like the lucha style. You've got like the rope work that Rey Fenix does, and then you have like the fucking spot monkey shit that Penta El Cero Miedo does. Yeah. And every now and again they'll switch sides, but that in general they both have their own like comfortable corner that they're in. And the match in particular that I think of when I think of them is the steel cage match with the Young Bucks.
The spiked sneaker for the super kick.
The spiked sneaker with the super kick.
I think they won the titles off them that night too, right?
They did.
That was the first night as champions, and they that was just a great fucking match.
That was a wonderful match, and they continue to perform, when they're not hurt or something.
Yeah. And I mean, them with Pac, I kind of cheated with the tag team. I included some trios. Death Triangle is higher up on my list just because of their dynamic with Pac and just everything that they've been doing.
And that best of 7 series was entertaining as hell. And I didn't think a series of 7 matches between the same teams would be that damn entertaining. But
they have chemistry.
They really do. It just works.
I didn't see the Escalada de la Muerte match, but the other ones have been really good. Yeah, that's what I have for number 8.
What you got for an 8X?
Going a little different here. I had Toxic Attraction at number 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, NXT, since the 2.0 rebranding, people have very mixed opinions about it. But one thing that's been constant about, NXT was Toxic Attraction. Gigi Dolan, JC Jane, and Mandy Rose. Okay, they've been featured every week. They've gone out there and they put on some really, really strong matches. Okay, and they just work well as the Mean Girls team. All right, and they put eyes on NXT. Okay, I absolutely love Gigi Dolan. Okay, character-wise, she is probably the most interesting of the 3 because she has this whole dark little goth princess persona that she has going on. It comes with that fucking flower and the hat and all that other stuff.
She was Priscilla Kelly on the Indies. She was engaged to Darby Allin at one point.
Yeah, she was married to Darby Allin at one point.
Yeah.
Christ.
But like I said, she's just been hella entertaining. Okay, and they're all not bad at cutting promos either. As a matter of fact, those two actually helped Mandy Rose improve as a performer. Because she got on there for a while and just killed it. Okay, they had some really great matches.
I do feel bad that they weren't included in the Women's Royal Rumble.
Oh, I did. I felt
actually thinking about it. I was thinking about the Rumble today. I'm like, we didn't have Dolph Ziggler. You didn't have Bronson Reed in the Royal Rumble to get people familiar with him. It's just then thinking about the women's one. I'm like, you had 2 stars from NXT show up. Yeah, of all the women you have on that roster. It was just, I was like, they kind of thinking about them again. The performances are what carried those Rumbles, but there was not a lot of star power coming out in that women's match.
And the thing was,
aside from the main ones,
and it would have did them wonders, to put Toxic Attraction in that women's Rumble, because Michelle McCool, she came out of the crowd. I'm like, that could have been a spot for GC or JC or one of them two, to just come out and just absolutely, get out there and get recognized by the main audience.
I will say I am a sucker for the crowd entry. There was one year that Jerry Lawler was doing commentary, and then they played his music. I was like,
yeah, he got in, he instantly got eliminated, and then he went back and denied he was in the Rumble that year. But it's with Toxic Attraction though, it's you're having them in this feud with Roxanne Perez now, the 2 of them versus Roxanne Perez, and both of them are getting beat up by the champion. So it's what is the plan with this tag team?
I would have just put them on the main roster because I think they're ready for it. And right now, you have very few women's tag teams on that roster that are actual tag teams. Just put them on the main roster and let them do their thing. They can be the champions. They could carry the tag team division on there for a little while. They're that charismatic. Just
to mention too, Roxanne Perez did not last long in the Rumble, but Zoe Stark did, which was a weird decision out of the 2 NXT women.
But Zoe Stark's a legit worker though. She gets in there.
She was doing great in there, but it's I feel like she should have probably had the champion last a little longer.
True.
So especially with the reason you brought her up was because you were happy with her performance. So
well, like I said, she's not going to be down. She's not going to be down in NXT long anyway.
No, they're probably gonna take the belt off her in a few months and move her up.
Yeah, she's not going to be down there very long.
It's probably going to be one of those post WrestleMania things.
Yeah, probably. All right, let's move on to number 7. I got House of Black. They weren't there around for the later half of last year, but just everything about what they were doing was great. Getting Julia Hart in, being portrayed as this dominant force. I can't remember if the Brody King Darby Allin casket match was 2022, where he sleepered, where Darby choked him out on the ring with the chain and then dropped him into the.
I think that was
that
2022.
had to have been 2022 because that
Yeah.
did not happen. That has not happened this year.
But
Yeah.
it's also the great spot with Brody King choking out Darby and then dropping him out of the battle royale or whatever they had
Yes.
that day. Like
That was
Brody King is just coming into his own like standout personality in that group.
especially with actually kind of having to with Alistair having taken,
Yeah.
or sorry, Malachi having taken a leave of absence.
And moving into this year, I'm excited to see where they go because they just had the whole breakup with Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. And now Eddie Kingston is wanting to join. And I'm like, this is a ploy. Like, this man's going to destroy you.
It's a trap.
But I mean, they're just entertaining. Like they just have a great look. The entrance is great. Just everything about the aesthetics, the chemistry of the roster, the work rate of the guys in the faction. It's so good. You got for 7 Deca.
Have Swerve in Our Glory.
Nice.
Same.
Good, really good. Yeah, you actually have them at number 7.
Yep.
They had a good year. They really
had a
did.
good
They had
year.
a really good year.
It's another big man, little man team, but I love the twist where, like, usually when it's a big man, little man, like the big guy's usually the jerk, except for like Sean and Diesel. But that's different. But in this one, Swerve is the fucking crazy guy.
And that's what I liked about that team. I love the heel face dynamic of these kind of teams sometimes. Where one guy is just like inherently evil.
Yeah.
And the other part is like, I know you're kind of an asshole, but we got to work together to get through this. We got to win the titles and all that.
They had good
So,
tag team
I'm
spots too, like the moonsaulting off of Keith Lee's chest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like I love those spots that they do because Keith Lee is just like, I'm gonna hold the rope, just jump off of me. But yeah, I mean, it had a great year of storytelling with them too. Like, the team comes together, and then you start seeing these little cracks after the tag titles were lost. And they had a very brief run with the tag titles, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Probably like 2-3 months, I think. It wasn't a long run.
It was unfortunate. It's an unfortunate reign, not because of because of the length was shortened because God, the Acclaim just got over.
The Acclaim got over. Like it was just one of those things. It's like their feud with the Acclaim made the Acclaim superstars.
Yeah,
Like-
and that's
They
good.
just
You
explode.
had to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah. So it's just, and now the feud, whenever Keith Lee comes back, it's just going to be great to see.
I want them to do a thing where like Swerve has just beat the fuck out of somebody, and like leave them a bloody mess in the ring, and then he's going up the ramp, and then just Keith Lee out of nowhere just trucks him into the crowd, like he did with Adam Cole.
Yeah. I keep going back and watching the Keith Lee NXT clip of Finn like getting set up for the drop kick. You just see Keith Lee like emerge like from the corner of the ring, like grab him. And I'm like,
Yeah.
God, the camera work in NXT when Keith Lee and Finn were down there was just like top notch.
So good.
They both had a Swerve in Our Glory. Good, I mean, good tag team. Both the performers are great. Like even Swerve going back to being Killshot in Lucha Underground, and just Keith Lee on the Indies. Like if you go back and watch any of his Indies matches with Dominic Dijak, as he's known now.
Oh, especially Walter too, who's now
Him and Walter, like it was just the indie Keith Lee was just built different.
That generation of talent that was in that particular scene between Keith Lee, Dominic Dijakovic, Walter Gunther, and Swerve was just all top notch.
Matt
Yeah.
Riddle was in that class too.
Yeah.
Matt's an asshole.
That's in rehab. That was another thing. People are like, no Matt Riddle. It's like he's in rehab. No Randy Orton. We don't know if he's coming back. So
Back injury.
yeah, it's
Back
like
injuries is serious.
severe. He's
Yeah,
RKO'd too many people. He's broken his back.
he's
So
broken his own back. It sucks when your finisher is like you having to take a bump.
yeah, it was the same thing with one of the Hardy. It was with Matt Hardy, and like one of his moves is like it fused his spine because he kept landing on his he kept landing like in the sit
Probably on
down
his
position
elbow.
so bad, like over
Oh, that's what-
decades of wrestling.
Yeah,
So
happens.
Yeah, it's awful. Moving on to 6, I had the Briscoes. They would have been higher, but I just learned about them basically last year.
Yeah.
So the name stood out to me because I followed Ring of Honor for a little while, but I never watched it. But actually, like sitting down and watching them with FTR and everything, I was just like, what the fuck? And I started going through and I started watching stuff on YouTube, and I was like, these guys wrestled Shinsuke and Okada as a tag team in Ring of Honor. And I was like, I have a lot of matches I need to go watch. Like,
the Briscoes were a staple of Ring of Honor for a very long time, and the gimmick never really stuck with me because, you know, as somebody who lives in Texas, them boys mean something else.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they were pretty much Ring of Honor mainstays. I mean, they did branch out to show up in other promotions for small feuds and everything like that, but reading like stories and everything about Jay, he was never going to leave Ring of Honor if they needed him. Like, he was always going to be in that company. Even he had the solo run as their world champion for a little while.
Yep.
And now it's just interesting to see what Mark's going to do. Now being a single wrestler for probably the first time in, 2-3 decades. So, but yeah, I just found out about them. That's why they're kind of in the middle of the list, and I haven't been disappointed with like the match quality that they've put on. Like, they just seem like natural professionals at this. Who you got, Deca?
I actually have the Street Profits here.
Yeah.
Tez got some gains over 2022. And like, I think he gained a solid like 50 pounds of muscle or something.
40 pounds of muscle.
About 40 pounds, something like that. But
yeah, he looks good.
None of that has stopped his like aerial ability or his ups at all.
No.
Like, that man can jump.
Dawkins can jump. I'm surprised that Dawkins, for a guy his size, can get the air that he can get.
Yeah, they got hops. And it's a very, at some point their matches feel a little formulaic. That's not really their fault. That's kind of the fault of like,
that's the booking, the producers.
That's the booking.
Yeah,
because if they're like, oh, you have a 3-minute match, go out there, and then you just like, okay, spot, okay, match over.
Yeah. And I mean, they had a lot of stuff going on in 2022 that kind of teased a breakup, but they never seemed to pull the trigger on it.
I think Montez would be a wonderful like champion, like singles champion. I think he's got a good look. I think he's got a lot of talent.
The dude has a lot of natural charisma as well. He shows it, especially at house shows. I watched a couple of videos.
Oh, I love when they come here, dude. Like when we're here in Norfolk watching them in house show, it's so great.
Like the last time they were here, in Norfolk at Raw, it was just they were coming through the crowd, dancing with the crowd, and like they were just doing their thing, man. It was they just had a whole section like going like this and stuff.
Yeah,
and those guys are highly entertaining, man. They just have an infectious energy. That's why I love the Street Profits. I really do.
Yeah. It's like, and like I said, I do feel like eventually we're going to see the breakup, and Tez might go on to be a solo star. But that's all to be seen. It seems like they've kept the tag team together, and I don't know if all that stuff is just because of backstage. Maybe the two don't really see eye to eye on stuff, but they're still doing the actual tag team stuff as professionals. There's always like that stuff where eventually somebody's like, I don't want a tag team anymore, kind of thing, but they're kind of stuck in that position.
One of those things where like they would leave so much money on the table if they did
a tag team. Yeah.
And I respect that.
Yeah, it's probably like a whole thing with merch or just like the image of them as like a tag team. People love the Street Profits, so it's just like I can probably do more than this. Like I imagine that gets into a lot of tag team guys' heads a lot.
It's a Sonny and Cher moment.
Yeah. Who do you got for your number 6, X?
House of Black at number 6, because like I said, from the whole formation of that group to the storyline with Julia Hart, everything we all mentioned earlier about it, they just been a solid addition to AEW. Granted, some of the booking before the last several months has been kind of, off, and they haven't really featured them as much. When they came back together, after Malachi and Buddy's break, they just came back and just had them destroying everybody. So now you have a clear direction of where you're going with the House of Black, and they're pretty much sticking with it. See, the thing is, I'm waiting on is when they eventually get to the Elite for the trios titles. And I'm pretty much more than interested to see exactly what they do with them there. Because I really want the House of Black to just absolutely run through the Elite for the titles.
Yeah,
I really do.
I understand putting them into feuds with people like Eddie Kingston gives them stuff to do. I mean, you put Buddy Murphy against Darby Allin for the TV title. So like they're giving them stuff to do, but yeah, I believe the faction deserves like that big showdown for the trios title at some point.
Yeah, because right now it just seems like it's all filler to me, So once they get to the trios titles, I think that's where that group explodes. And they come into their own right then and there.
Then it's like, all right, who can take these guys down out of our, trios that we have? This will be an interesting story to see that play out. If we get to that point, I'm hoping they don't screw up the booking too much anymore.
I just hope
nobody. I know in the
backstage.
Yeah, the video that Malachi Black put out on Instagram after his break, where he had to like clear up stuff. He's like, I'm not leaving. I'm just dealing with stuff going on in my life. I'm just taking a break. And then he says like, I'm a professional. I'm going to write out my contract. Like, I'm not going to ask for my release. I'm an employee. This is the company that I work for. So he strikes me as like the consummate professional. Like he's going to write out his contract. He's going to do what he needs to do. And then decide after it, whether or not he wants to stay or not. He's definitely less egotistic than a lot of the other guys on contract, I would say.
And he's a solid worker,
He's a solid worker. He's like, hey, Tony, what do you want me to do? You want me to go out there and do this? You got it. I work for you. You pay me. I'm an employee. I mean, people can not be happy about it. Like, if I was being paid and being promised like, stuff and it was like, hey, you're just going to wrestle so-and-so tonight and, this is going to happen. It's not going to be a clean win. I'd be like, man, I could be probably portrayed a little stronger, but I'm going to go out and do it.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to want to be the top guy. So everybody's going to have this like vision of themselves. And I can see a lot of people getting frustrated, but Malachi Black doesn't strike me as that kind of person. So that was number 6. Moving on to number 5. I had the Dark Order. I just love the Dark Order. I love Johnny Hungy. I love their whole story with Adam Page. I think it was just around the start of this year that 10 left. But just like every time I see him, I'm just like, yay, it's the Dark Order. Like they're just some of my favorite like guys because they just seem like they just, even if they're not doing anything big, they just seem happy to be there, and they always have this energy to them. And
it reminds me of like the Job Squad.
Yeah, and
you just put all the people who like lose a lot together, and they're having fun.
But the thing is, these guys put on incredible matches, though. They're like the Job Squad. Of course, they need to go out there and make the other guys look good. But at the same time, they can put on solid matches and yet be incredibly comedic at the same time. Like Johnny Silver is actually really underrated.
He really is.
He really is, because like I've seen. I think he had a match. I guess was it against Kenny Omega at one point?
Yeah, he had the solo match against Kenny or Moxley.
I can't remember.
I think it was Kenny. No, I think it was Bryan Danielson, because he was going after. It was during the Hangman Bryan Danielson feud.
It was back when Danielson was a heel, somewhat. And he just. I was like, man, I thought this match turned out to be so much better than I thought it would, because Johnny Hungy just went out there and he just pretty much took Danielson to his limit. They did a bunch of stuff that looked good. And I'm like, man, I don't know why the Dark Order isn't featured more on television. I really do think they deserve another chance to make their group.
They did kind of get sidelined a bit because, losing Brody Lee, who was like their big leader, kind of hindered any plans they had going forward. And then they broke them up kind of with Adam Page a bit. But recently, Adam Page says he has some bridges to mend, so I hope he gets them back with the Dark Order. You had Anna Jay just suddenly like leaving to join
the JAS.
JSA, which is weird because you would think that she'd be more involved in like the Jungle Boy story.
Right.
Instead of just, it's like your boyfriend is getting jumped by Christian Cage and a dinosaur. Your best friend is being a dick to somebody else. Which side do you choose? Like, and she's like, I'm gonna go join the friend. But yeah, so she left. So you got, and then Alan and Angels left. So you have just the basic three now. You have Uno, you have Alex Reynolds, and you have John Silver, because even Stu Grayson's gone.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think with Dark Order, it's probably time to repackage them and make them like a new team or something. But those three
Probably
could definitely
send them on their separate ways.
honestly. Yeah, make Silver and Reynolds a tag team. I mean, I don't think they kind of teased a House of Black feud. Like they came out to stop the House of Black assault, and that was right before Stu Grayson left. So I wonder if there were plans to throw Dark Order versus House of Black, which I would have loved to see. Especially like you can have 10 versus Brody. You could have Anna Jay come back versus Julia. Like it could be a whole thing. But with the people leaving, I think it just kind of got dampened. And now these guys are just kind of in the lower mid card. But I mean, they're doing their role well. So
that was just kind of the concept of 2022. You know what I'm saying? They had injuries, they had backstage drama, and they had other things that occurred that just jumbled a lot of plans. And things were being reconfigured as they went. You know, they had to replan everything. They had to start from scratch.
yeah.
And I believe so far, you know, this year so far they've recovered because every Dynamite's
they've had pretty consistent stories going so far. Nothing has seemed like slapdash.
Yeah.
About it. Like all of Brian's matchups make sense because these are all people that MJF are hiring, and he's hiring them to beat down Brian. So he's not at his 100% when he takes on MJF. You know, you have the Kenny and the Bucks versus Death Triangle for the trios, which is the original goal, but they made it like a 7-match thing. You started having this women's feud forming. And it's just like, okay, so we're actually getting like some consistent storylines. But there's still a lot on the roster that nobody's doing anything with. And I'm like, I don't need to see Jericho every week. Just, we can put him on the back corner for a week.
I could do with a lot less Chris Jericho.
I'm like, just have Garcia turn on him, get that feud started, and make a megastar out of Daniel Garcia. Like, that's all you have to do.
I really felt like they should have pulled the trigger on that
a
couple months ago.
He did that, but with Action Andretti.
He did that with Action Andretti, and then Action Andretti was thrown into a tag team with Ricky Starks for some reason.
Well, that was just a tag team match. It doesn't mean they're a tag team.
I want to see more Action Andretti. I really like the guy.
Yep,
and so we're on number 5. Who hasn't? I said Dark Order.
Yeah, I had a bit of a curveball. I had the Motor City Machine Guns.
Hell yeah.
They are probably the proto Young Bucks.
They really are.
No, they're the Bucks before the Bucks.
Yeah, they're the Bucks before the Bucks, and they are currently champions in 2 different federations.
Yeah.
Companies. They're the Impact Tag Champions, and they are the champions in New Japan. I believe they're still the Never Open Weight, whatever the fuck it's called.
One of their faction.
Strong Open Weight. Never Open Weight is fucking Dragon Gate.
Yeah, just the naming schemes of tag belts.
The naming schemes of Japanese tag team titles just baffles me sometimes.
It's crazy.
But yeah, I was like, when I saw that they were like double champions, I was like, is this like 2006 again? Did I go back in time?
It really does feel like that, and
they're still putting on great matches.
And then they teamed up with, Jay Lethal recently too. And they had their match with FTR, I think.
Yes.
And it's just talk about like guys who can still go. The Motor City Machine Guns have been around forever. It feels like
they have. Like I've been a fan of those guys since the old school TNA days when they were in Orlando, Florida. and they would just put on bangers of matches. As a matter of fact, they did wrestle the Young Bucks back then, but back then, Nick and Matt Jackson were called Generation Me. I
Yeah,
believe.
that was before they even took the Young Buck name.
Well,
Yeah.
they were the Young Bucks before that, and then they became Generation Me in TNA, and then after they left TNA, they were the Young Bucks
and
again.
they gave them weird names. I can't remember you. It was like Max and Jeremy Buck or something. So that's what they were. But yeah, they put on an incredible match back then. So I was like, yeah, I'm kind of glad to see them back. You know, because I thought Chris Sabin, one of them dropped off the face of the earth for a while. I think it was Chris Sabin. You know, but it turns out he was injured.
Was it one of them? I forget. In like a feud in AEW just randomly.
No, I don't think Chris Sabin
No,
or
I don't
Alex
think so.
Kelly had a singles
I do know
feud.
I do know Alex Shelley was in Japan for a while. He teamed with Kushida, and they were called the Time Splitters.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who I got. They're not like, I haven't seen a whole lot of them, but to see them back in Impact Wrestling as a tag champion, it's like, oh, what a throwback. There you go.
Who you got for number 5 there, X?
I got Death Triangle at 5. Being for the obvious reasons. They had a really solid 2022. The Lucha Bros came in as champs. They put on an incredible match against FTR. For the AAA tag titles. You know, Pac was out of the picture for a while, and then he came back, and they just took off from there. Okay, and the thing is, when all that stuff happened, you know, and I hate to keep harping back onto this incident. When all that stuff with CM Punk happened, they stepped into, just like Mox, they stepped into that role, and they became the champions, and they pretty much took over where the Elite were probably supposed to take those titles, and they just stepped in and did a fantastic job.
And they had a really good feud in the process with the Best Friends.
And they did. It was a solid feud with Best Friends. You know, and they had that Best of 7 series with the Elite, which every match felt a little different. Like, the first 3 matches were pretty standard stuff from them, but when they started doing like the no DQ matches and the ladder matches and all this stuff, like, the creativity was just there.
I wish they would have booked it differently, because they reverse sweeped them.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it could have done like 1, 1, 1, 1, but it was like, no, Death Triangle gets 3, and then the Elite get 4.
Elite just get 4.
Like, it was just like, that feels lazy. Like,
but booking problems aside, that was a really solid Best of 7 series.
Yeah.
Okay, and I enjoyed every match in it.
Yeah, I mean, they're a great tag team, and they still kind of have some longevity to them. And even if they don't become champion again for a while, I feel like they're going to put on tag matches that make other tag teams look better. Just because they have that talent to do so.
Any combination of the 3.
Yeah. Moving on to 4, I'm going to bring up FTR. They probably had their career best year last year. It was wild. They were holding, 4 sets of belts, 3 sets of belts.
Yeah, belt armor.
Just belt armor, come out dripped in gold, putting on banger matches. They had their match against each other in 2022.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Cash Wheeler, the bald one. I keep forgetting. I keep mixing their names up, but yeah, he
Dax Hardwood is
Dax Hardwood was the bald one.
Dax Hardwood. He I mean, that's a career year for him. Just the quality of matches versus Moxley.
He had a match against Punk,
the tag matches they had with everybody, the different promotions they were in. I mean, if these guys are going to, take a break and just do indie promotions before figuring out where they're signing again, it's going to help so many guys on the indies just get better going against them.
It's remarkable that they had the promotional campaign to be like at Tony Khan to book FTR. I forget what the actual hashtag was. But I think that was 2022. And like, despite that, you still hear about their banger matches, like, if you know where to look.
Yeah. And I think
despite
one of the stories,
not even being there.
Yeah, and I think one of the stories was when CM Punk came in, he pulled MJF, Wardlow, and FTR aside, and he told him, he's like, I've asked to be in programs with each of you. Like, these are the people that he wanted to wrestle in, like, the first bit of his return. And we saw that with the match versus Dax and everything. So, and then the MJF feud, which kind of got, sidelined by injuries. But the incident, I think, is officially to the fans being called the Brawl Out. So
Yeah.
which is great. FTR has kind of lost most of their belts now, I believe. Because I think they are winding down with their contracts, and they're going to take that break that they've been talking about, figuring out where they want to go next.
Right.
I honestly can't see them going back to WWE, not with the freedom they have now. But money talks, so you never know.
Not with the value they have now.
Yeah, I mean, they have the freedom to wrestle in any promotion and all that, and if you go back to WWE, you have the potential of wrestling Hit Row. I don't think the FTR would want to put themselves into that situation. It's like, why wrestle them when we can wrestle Motor City Machine Guns, or these New Japan tag teams, or the Lucha Bros more regularly? But I think they just benefit more from being outside of the walled garden. So
The walled garden.
the walled garden of WWE.
Yep.
It's beautiful on the inside, but you don't see anything on the outside. So who you got for 4, Deca?
4, I have the New Day. The New Day, just again, like, injuries can't keep this tag team from, at the very least, cutting a promo, putting someone else over, even if they can't themselves be a part of the show. Like, Big E is who famously is still, recovering from a neck injury, was at an autograph signing in San Antonio.
And hopefully Kofi's fine after driving his head into a desk during that botched Royal Rumble spot.
Yeah.
It kind of feels
Kofi.
bad. That's 2 years in a row they've botched the Kofi spot.
Yeah.
But seeing how smoothly the rest of the Rumble went, I think he was probably still going to be eliminated by Walter or Gunther. So it's like, okay, so we can just keep doing what we're doing. We're just not doing the Kofi spot. All right, let's go.
Yeah. I thought they had a really good 2022. Like, most people would see going to NXT as like a demotion, but honestly, I think they're doing a really good job, like, with the tag teams down there. Well, tag team, I guess.
See, the thing with the New Day is, I'm thinking about this right now. They've been a tag team
Years.
since 2014.
Yeah.
We're coming up on the 10th anniversary of the New Day, which is a year
Here.
from now, and they are still just as solid and they are still just a dynamic tag team as they were back then.
Mhm.
Okay, they can go anywhere, work with anybody, put them in any program, and they're immediately stars. Okay,
Yeah.
they're still going. They still sell T-shirts. They still are a backbone of the tag division. Okay, they're still one of the best factions WWE has. And you can put them
Yes.
anywhere. They are so fluent in wherever they go. I don't really see them going to NXT as a demotion. They're going to NXT to sell tickets to pay-per-views now that they're moving them out of the Performance Center.
Yeah,
And
they're
people are going to go see the New Day.
going to make Gallus and Pretty Deadly look like $1 million in that triple threat that's coming up at Vengeance or whatever.
They're going to
They
make
will.
them look super good. And eventually they're going to go to the main roster, Gallus and Pretty Deadly. And I don't know what's going to happen to them.
Well,
Right into the main card.
I was gonna say it's a coin flip sometimes.
It really is.
I think it matters
It makes me
of,
nervous.
are the Usos still holding both titles?
Yeah, that's true.
Because if the Usos are not, and you get a mix up of all the tag teams in the championship scene now, then they might have a better chance of being there, especially if they find themselves as, Triple H guys.
Right.
But Triple H guys like Dexter Lumis was not in the Royal Rumble this year, which makes no sense. So it's like, I don't even think they know what the fuck they're doing.
Business as
Everything
usual.
with this Vince stuff going on probably has everybody like Shit,
Everyone's
what do we
on.
do?
I
What do we
I
do?
I am almost certain everyone is on edge right now.
Yeah. We
I
post
think
today. It's like
it's on
another
edge
day,
right
another
now.
lawsuit. Like,
Yep.
so
Yeah, the Vince is on edge because of all these lawsuits he's been getting hit with lately.
yeah. Let's move on to number 3. We're in the top 3 now for all of us, and I think we're going to have some nice little deviations here.
Maybe.
My third place is the Elite. Again, they had kind of a lackluster second half of the year with everything, and Kenny was working injured for most of it, but the Bucks put on incredible matches with everybody. And I mean, even coming back, they proved like they still haven't lost it as a tag team. Ish. I mean, what was it? 2022 was like the year of the Young Bucks, basically. It's like, hey, we're building this feud with Cole and his boys. We're having this inner turmoil with this 5-man group because Kenny's gone. And it's like they have creative finishes to matches. They had great matches. The steel cage match, as mentioned earlier. I mean, say what you will about them, but they move merch and they entertain. And you can hate them all you want, but people are going to watch these matches and be so entertained sometimes. So I see that as a win. You can take the hate because you know that you're going to go out there and somebody's going to love the match that you have. So who you got for 3, Deca?
FTR.
Hell yeah.
For very, very much so the same reasons that you stated. AAA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, everywhere they went, they got gold, and it's a shame that they didn't come in and just fucking make an AEW entrance in all their fucking belt armor.
Yeah.
I think they only ever showed up in the Ring of Honor titles.
Yeah, they showed up, I think, once or twice with all the belts, but after getting all the belts, I don't think in the other promotions they really defended them either.
Yeah.
I think they just kind of had them. They lost the IGP ones to Aussie Open, if I remember correctly. I mean, that was a great feud too during 2022. The whole Will Ospreay feud, which I think FTR had a match with Aussie Open during that feud. Unless I'm remembering correctly. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. But yeah, they're great. They're just going to be remembered as one of the great tag teams. Do they have the looks to stand out? No, but you'll watch that match and be like, this is fucking good wrestling. Like
every single match that they do is everything they touch turns to gold.
Yeah. And
truly the Midas touch.
And even when they're done wrestling, any tag team they train is going to have that touch, if they can teach them right.
If they learn correctly, yes.
If they learn correctly and they take the advice, any tag team trained by FTR will be gold. Who you got, X?
Okay, well, yeah, number 3 or number 4?
Number 3.
3.
Okay, number 3, I have the Acclaimed at number 3.
The banger year.
It's like, from where they started 2 years ago during the pandemic, from on AEW Dark to where they are now, that has kind of been the most meteoric 2-year rise of any tag team I've seen in years. Okay.
It really has.
It really has. Okay. And I think Billy Gunn, give credit to him. He was a major, major contribution to that team exploding the way they did. Because when they first started this whole Scissor Me Daddy ass thing, I was like, I was just sitting back thinking, this shit gonna work.
And it does. That's the stupidest thing is that it does.
It's the stupidest damn thing in the world. And I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, this took like wildfire. They're selling t-shirts and all these other merchandise. And this happened within a matter of a short few months.
You can't predict what gets over with the crowd. You can only capitalize on it.
And that's what Tony did. I mean, they had the match where they lost to Swerve and Keith the first time. But then they had that rematch and they took it off like no hesitation. They're like, put the tag belts on the Acclaim.
And you know, it's an amazing thing where you can pretty much contribute to a tag team like Swerve and Our Glory's title reign, which they were really good and the crowd were behind them. You can just cut that short because they just got over so fast.
The crowd was turning on Swerve in them during the match.
During the match. like halfway through it, they just started getting booed like crazy, and I'm like, this is probably something I have not seen in quite some time.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember the last time this actually happened, to be honest with you.
It was such an organic thing too. Them beating the Acclaim, Swerve kind of going full crazy as a heel, and then Keith Lee, like the storyline building of Keith Lee and Swerve's feud coming out of how the crowd turned on them during that Acclaimed match is just, it's the smartest decision making. It's like Keith and Swerve don't need the titles. Put them on the Acclaim. Let's go forward with Swerve and Keith now. Like,
And people see, and the thing that kills me about this, people think that AEW just doesn't have storylines or they don't do storyline stuff like that. But if you really pay attention to it, it's actually really brilliant that they did this. Okay, because you took one thing that was existing and rolled it into another storyline between a former tag team. Okay, and they did this almost effortlessly.
I think it worked too, because I think when Swerve realized that they were getting heel heat during that match, he played into it too.
Yeah, they leaned into it heavily. So
there are definitely like a lot of like things called in the match that you can see.
Is definitely one of those things. I feel like it should have been probably called to let Acclaim win when they realized how much the crowd was behind them. But it did take a few more weeks, but they eventually got the rematch and took it off of them, which was a smart decision. And I think they're still tag team champions, right?
Yeah, they're still the tag team champions. You know, they're feuding with the Ass Boys right now.
Yeah. The Ass Boys. There was a whole thing with the family therapy, which I don't think I saw yet.
I haven't seen that one yet. I haven't seen that segment yet either.
It's just like another thing, like Billy Gunn just kind of like leading these two younger teams in a way. Moving on to 2. I got Death Triangle. Enough said. Like we talked about them. They're a great trio. The Pac's a great solo performer. The Lucha Bros are a great tag team. They just have everything going on in that group, and they play like perfect heels. Even though Phoenix is kind of like mostly a baby face, when the heel tags come in, it's good storytelling to have like Phoenix kind of hesitate a bit. It's
yes,
like, you're the good guy in a team of 2 assholes. Like, so I'm waiting to see what their next big trios feud is, and I really hope it's House of Black down the line.
I also hope it's House of Black.
Like, let them go through a few more matches. Like, give me Death Triangle versus Top Flight and AR Fox and stuff like that, and give them like a few small feuds, but definitely build up to Death Triangle, House of Black, because that story and that history already exists.
Like right now, the whole trios division, something has to lead to the House of Black. It has to, because
the house always wins.
You're just not doing those titles justice if you don't lead it straight to them.
Yeah. Who you got for 2 there, Deca?
I have the Usos actually.
The Usos.
Same.
All the reasons we talked about.
X got into it a little bit earlier, but like it's just like it's all the subtle things that they do in promos, or like, you know, it's when Roman's on stage, yes, they play second fiddle, but Roman's not always on stage. In fact, he is seldomly on stage. And who is there cutting the promos and getting people hyped for shit? It's the Usos. Yeah.
I do kind of miss the Uso penitentiary like angle that they had.
Also with the Usos, and I've been paying attention to this all of 2022 and even recently, the Usos' acting ability is pretty damn good. Okay, like with the way the Usos, you know, portray things on camera. Like just this past week at the Royal Rumble, the thing with Jey Uso walking out and like he was just going like this, like he was in tears. I was like, I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect it. You know, so the Usos just have this thing where they just kind of pull some emotion out of you through their acting. And they've gotten a lot better at it. Somebody
pointed out on Twitter, it's like, somebody get Jey Uso a SAG card because this man has been the best supporting actor in this storyline.
He really has. You know, and he really has. And Jey Uso's been coming. I mean, Jimmy Uso's coming along as well. You know, but Jey Uso has just kind of
it's become the Jay Sammy Roman story.
Yeah.
Like it's just so natural too, because it's like somebody pointed out, it's like, does Jay just see himself in Sammy because he previously stood against Roman?
Yeah, I've
Like
seen
for the
I've seen a
same
bunch of
thing.
different texts about that.
And now
yeah.
he's
the
like
whole thing
seeing
makes sense.
he became friends with Sammy, and now Sammy's laying just on the ground, battered and beaten by Roman. So it's like, I feel like it's interesting to see like how the Usos are going to reconcile from all this, but I think we're going to see Jay being on like Sammy and KO's side for a little bit.
Mhm.
And I believe that's probably going to be the setup for WrestleMania right there.
Right.
But they're leading into it so well, and I'm like, man, these guys are just too good. From where they were a couple of years ago until now, they're just way too good right now. And
Yeah.
Sammy has kind of helped to make them better for it.
Oh yeah. Sami Zayn has definitely like upgraded them, but they can stand on. They've always been able to stand on their own.
The Sammy, which is just throwing Sammy into the mix, was just like that once in a generation kind of story, and that's why I'm like, you just need to capitalize on it. Fuck whatever deal you made with Cody. Let Sammy take a belt off him at Elimination Chamber in Canada. Capitalize on this.
Just let the bacon grease pop on this one, okay?
Yeah, it's just
That's all
like,
you got to do.
just like give that moment and just like imagine the hype of the crowd. Like, because Roman has been champion for 3 years. It's time, man. Get the belts off of him.
Call the audible.
Everybody complains about AEW's like title reigns being long, and I'm like, bro, your belts have been held hostage for 3 years by one guy. Like, there hasn't been a main event title scene realistically across the two shows for years. There have been matches and feuds, but there hasn't been like a title scene.
I'll be honest, man. It's gonna be real weird seeing somebody else holding the Universal and WWE championships after that period of time.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be weird. But I'm here for it, though. I'm ready.
Right.
So I'm gonna go watch Elimination Chamber, and I'm gonna watch WrestleMania. So whatever happens is gonna happen. But I'm gonna hope that they do the thing and just let Sammy go over. Because if you don't, the crowd's gonna turn on Cody, and we're gonna get AEW crowd 0.2. So it's just Cody's gonna be booed out of the fucking building. So, but then he works better as a heel, so you could probably turn him heel off of that.
Right.
But it's just like, for the sake of WWE at Elimination Chamber, just let Sammy go over. Like, so you both had Uso as 2. Now, our number 1 tag teams of 2022.
I think me and X might have the same one. Who do you have, Sharky?
I have Top Flight. Not because of their presence in any championship pictures or anything like that, but just the natural progression of just how good they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in the matches that they've looked strong in, even with losing. From Dante's like solo performance whenever Darius was out, to them being back as a tag team, just to them being more frequently put into a main event scene. Like, even just a few weeks ago, they went over the Young Bucks.
Yeah. Which
who
was
are trios champions. And now you have this addition of AR Fox being a potential third member. And it's just like, these guys have a long career ahead of them still, because they are still very young.
Yeah,
And
they're like in their early 20s.
If this is what it's like now, this is going to be a great career for these two high flyers. But just the youth, the charisma, the energy, the crowd loves them. They have like this presence to them that you just have to like look at them. It's awesome. And who do you guys have for number 1? Because I feel like you guys might share.
I think we both have the Acclaimed.
Oh no, I had the FDR at number 1.
Okay. I had the Acclaimed at number 1.
They earned it.
The Acclaimed, both teams, to be honest, earned it. Like, the Acclaimed, just like we were saying earlier, meteoric rise to the top.
A natural.
Natural, and like we've all mentioned, it felt a little janky that they didn't get it like right when the crowd was like piping hot.
Yeah.
but like they still got it, and they've earned it. And to speak, that's not even getting into the ability that Max Caster and fuck names.
Anthony Bowen.
Anthony Bowen. Sorry, Anthony, if you ever watch this. It's not even getting into like, their individual abilities as wrestlers. That's just them coming down the ramp. Is they've already hooked everybody.
Yeah.
Getting in the ring, they're still both accomplished performers.
Was it 2021 where Tony Khan had to edit out
Yes.
one of Max Caster reps? So these guys like came in as like shitty heels too, and just like naturally grew to baby faces. Like,
But
it's
you
just
know that was going
such
to be
a
the
wild
progression with it,
change.
though. It was going to be the progression with those guys eventually, though. And to
Yeah.
your point about Top Flight, before I get into FTR, the thing is, I had them as an honorable mention also, but I just wanted to see more of Top Flight, but it wasn't possible last year because of
Darius
I think
was
it Darius Martin's injuries.
one injury was from an in-ring thing, and then the other one was the accident.
Like
He
a
was
car
in a car accident, which took time out of his career too. But
Yeah.
they didn't put Dante on the back burner. They let you get invested in Dante Martin. And whenever the guy was put into a position to show up, he did. Like, Dante Martin can go out there and wrestle.
Yeah, and on top of that, they're just gonna go even further this year because that win over the Bucks should kind of propel them a bit to where they're now a viable tag team. Okay, now you're gonna be looking at these guys. They're already Dante Martin and Darius Martin individually are just amazing high flyers. Together, they are just a force. And now with that win over the Bucks, you're gonna be seeing them more often.
They
And
teasing it on Twitter. They said, "Hey, Young Bucks will get AR Fox if you guys want to throw in a trios match for the titles."
Right.
And the Bucks replied, tagging Kenny Omega with like a question mark. So I'm like, those three, it's like that. Those 6 people in a match, fucking give it to me, just right in my veins. Like,
just put it right there, man.
Win or lose, I'm going to be entertained. Like, people sleep on
But-
AR Fox, and he was great in Lucha Underground.
Yeah, but the reason I put FTR at number 1 is because, I'm just sitting here trying to understand something. I don't know what Vince McMahon saw in this team that just screamed that they're just going to be a comedy team. I don't know what he thinks sometimes.
They were
Because,
shaving
yeah.
each other's backs.
They're saving each other's backs, backstage segment with the Usos. They went from that to just going around the world and winning tag titles and putting on these incredible matches.
I think
Okay.
it comes down to Vince's bias. They reminded him of the old school Southern style of wrestling that he
Which
destroyed when he took over the territories.
Exactly. Vince seems to hold on to old archaic ideals in his brain, and it screws him out of some of the best talent he's ever had in his company. FTR was one of those guys that should have stuck around in that company. Hell, they won the Raw, SmackDown, and NXT Tag Team Championships. Okay,
Yep.
They were a solid tag team. Why would you not keep these guys somehow? Instead, they let them go to AEW and they just go on this meteoric run, which leads to last year, which was a career year for them. Dax Harwood put on, really, really amazing matches against CM Punk and Bryan Danielson and the like. And as a tag team, they just went around and just dominated. They went around, they won titles. I thought they were gonna go for the AEW World Tag Team Championships with the 3 titles they already had, because I thought they were gonna build towards that, but I guess they just stopped them a little short of that. But still, and then there was the matches with the Briscoes,
Yeah.
especially Jay's
One of the
final
best-
match with the dog,
Probably going to be listed as one of the best trilogies in wrestling.
especially that last match with the dog collar match, because that just reminded me so much of an old Dusty Rhodes match from the 80s. When
Yeah.
he was in those kind of matches. And it just brought me back to that as a kid.
Yeah. And FTR, it was either FTR or AOP. They were in the match that was the catalyst for one of the best like NXT moments of Ciampa turning on Gargano. Right? Like, was that the FTR DIY match for the titles?
I think it was. I'm not sure.
It was either that, it was either DIY versus AOP or DIY versus FTR. I think it was AOP because Johnny Gargano ate a ladder
I
for
heard those guys
Ciampa.
were coming back soon.
And but they had that they had that 3-way match with AOP and DIY, and it's just one of the best tag matches in NXT. Like, it's wild. These guys were so good for so long, and it's just people are finally seeing it on like a national level because WWE did them no real justice.
They mistreated them, and you can just tell for everything they've done with FTR the past year.
Yeah, like FTR versus anybody is going to be a fucking gold match because they will carry that match if they have to. Like,
anytime FTR is in the ring, it's money.
It's money. But yeah, we did it, guys.
We got through the 3.
We went through our 3 lists over the course of 4 weeks. So
we got there.
Yeah, all in all, it's good matches, and I mean, just with the number of promotions that are like red hot right now, the numbers of individual performers and tag teams, like it was really hard to make these lists. Like going through my list, it's like, God, the Acclaim deserved to be on here, but for some reason I was like, nah, but they just didn't entertain me as much as these guys. Like, it's just one of those.
I went through 3 or 4 drafts of this list. Like, I went through 3 or 4 drafts of this list just trying to come up with it, and it was a struggle. It really was. Everybody was just so good this year. It was hard to put people in positions, you know.
2022 was a good year for wrestling, and I think it was because everybody was coming out of the pandemic. Arenas started getting full again. You started having the live experience, and people just wanted to fucking entertain again. Like, the first filled arena probably did wonders for people's, like, I'm going to put on a fucking show for this crowd. But I'm excited to see where 2023 goes. WWE's in this weird spot where it's like this weird transition period between new talent being put into the main event scene or people that haven't been in the main event scene. AEW has like a bunch, like the factions are back, and now you have all these new feuds started. It's like that it's that transition period for promotions right now.
Tony Khan loves those like mid 90s WWF attitude era where like the undercard was all factions.
Yeah, but I mean, it gets everybody on TV and noticeable. And I mean, as long as they're in, even if there's some story behind it, it doesn't have to be like an in-depth one, you know, as long as there's a reason.
Yeah, and I think he's just trying to figure out the best way to utilize all the talent he has now. And I think he's finally starting to get in a good direction of how to use everybody he signed over the last year. There were a lot of signees, but, you know, you sign a lot of talent, you got to figure out the best way to utilize all of them in the way that
he's also signing a lot of young guys, and he's putting them into factions with experienced people. Like Julia Hart's in a faction with Malachi Black and Brody King, who have been on the indie scenes for, you know, a decade, maybe longer. You got the Jericho Appreciation Society with the guys who are 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. You have Action Andretti with Ricky Starks in a program, or like he's in a program now roughly around Jericho. Top Flight's dealing with the Young Bucks. Like, all these younger guys are the ones being really like showcased.
Yeah, and it's the best way to build your talent for the future. Okay, you have experienced veterans helping these young guys get along, you know, and find their character, find their style, and find their ability, so they can move up in the roster and eventually replace them.
Yeah,
it's being the top stars.
I'm gonna bring Sharky to task. You said 2.0. That's not who they are right now. That they are Cool Hand, Angelo Parker, and Daddy Magic Matt Menard.
But I hate those fucking names, so I'm gonna keep calling them. I'm gonna keep calling them 2.0.
That's the point. You're supposed to hate their names.
It's still 2.0 to me, damn it.
It's weird because like they've just kind of been stooges too. Like I think they wrestle on Dark, but I haven't seen them wrestle on like the main show.
I can't remember if it was Angelo or Matt because I can't tell their voices apart. But especially when they like get into ow voice.
Yeah.
But like, one of them does commentary on Dark.
Yeah, I mean they're another like just good comedy tag team that if you want to like portray them as heels and like put like a new like or like a babyface tag team against them, the crowd's going to cheer the baby faces because those two are fucking annoying. So it's very interesting. And another thing with like the younger generation and the older one, I mean the women's World Championship Eliminator, we saw Jamie Hayter versus Emi Sakura, and it's just like they beat the shit out of each other.
They did.
And Jamie's just proven she's a tough fucking champion. So
And you put her with the right talent, she's just gonna shine every time.
Yeah. But yeah, I got nothing left. Those were our lists.
Those were our lists.
So, anybody have any last remarks before we hold this off until next year for our 2023 lists?
I think our lists. I don't think they clashed as much as I thought they were going to.
We had a lot of same stuff in different places.
I think the only odd one out for me was like the Motor City Machine Guns and like Toxic Attraction.
Like I had the Briscoes at number 4, but like I said, I just felt like I had them a lot lower on the list, but then I kind of went back and thought about all the stuff I watched them in this year, and that's including the GCW stuff. They were really solid, and I've seen them, yeah, the Briscoes have been around in Ring of Honor for about 20-something years as a tag team before Jay Briscoe's untimely passing. But, within the last several years or so, they just kind of gained their footing on a national level. They have.
Just on top of that, like Good Guy, Tony Khan, after the Dark tapings, got a private jet to fly his guys out to Jay's funeral. Just so it's like, I read that story and I was like, man, Good Guy Tony. He's just sinking money into his guys, but it's definitely coming from like a good place.
It's from the heart, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah. But yeah, I got nothing left. So
And that's it for me.
As always, if you like the episode, leave a comment. Let us know your top 10 tag teams, your top 10 men, top 10 women wrestlers. Like the video, share it out, and we'll get X back on at some point in the future.
Whenever something crazy happens or another lawsuit pops up, probably.
Yeah. But next week, we'll have some familiar faces again. And yeah, we'll see you all next week.
It's me. I'm the familiar face.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.